One of the people who has joined the debate is Ontario NDP Leader Andrea Horwath. On the day of Ghoemshi's acquittal, she issued a statement in support of all women who have been victims of sexual assault. Andrea Horwath joins us now. Okay, did you see Marie Hennon's interview last night?
I did not see it, but I've certainly read some of the comments, absolutely.
Okay, some people afterwards, including yourself and Tom Mulcair, hashtagged I believe survivors. First of all, let me ask you, why did you do that?
In fact, we did that in the morning, well before the case came to its conclusion, well before the judge gave his decision, and it was to reinforce the fact that women are victims of sexual assault often, but come forward very rarely. And so in the morning of what I thought was going to be a landmark decision, regardless of which way it went, I thought it was important to say to survivors of assault and sexual assault, your voice is important, and you need to be believed when you are coming forward. When 1 in 4 women have experienced sexual assault and only 10% come forward, and far fewer have convictions, then we need to think about how do we support women. And this ruling, I think, is a chance for us to step back now and look at our justice system and determine, does it support women to come forward with complaints of sexual assault? And do we do enough to protect the women's interests and provide a forum or a place where they feel safe coming forward making accusations?
Okay, I'm going to play a clip from the interview last night, because Tom Mulcair also issued a statement along the same vein, which Peter Mansbridge brought up with Marie Hennon during the interview last night, asked her what her response was to politicians, Tom Mulcair, he mentioned by name, for tweeting I believe survivors on the day that her client was acquitted. Let's listen to that part of the interview now.
When a politician weighs in, that's a little more concerning to me, because you're a person who is engaged and should be more knowledgeable about what you're commenting on. And when you are denigrating the legal system in which you worked, and which you should actually be very proud of. We have one of the greatest legal systems in the world. And you do so not having read a word of transcript and not having informed yourself of the case. That's disappointing and not something I would put much stock in, but it sure does get you a lot of votes, doesn't it?
What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, she has a right to her own opinion. I certainly would not be of the opinion that our justice system is beyond reproach. I mean, we have an evolving justice system, and let's hope that we do, because if it's not serving the needs of our society as a whole, then we need to look at it and make changes. So assuming that our justice system can never be changed or can never have amendments made to it to serve a greater good or a greater role of justice, then I think that that's a bit naive. There have been changes to our justice system over the years, and there will continue to be changes as we as we evolve as a society.
But is she not saying, look, the fact is that by tweeting I believe survivors on that day, you're issuing a statement that you believe these the complainants in this case, without having read the evidence, you've passed a judgment, and as a politician, as a legislator in this country, that it's only a way. She's cynically approached, says her attitude toward it is more cynical, saying it's just for votes.
Well, no, in fact, it's the role of legislators to look at these kinds of situations and determine whether, in fact, legislation needs to be changed that would improve our justice system. And so, in fact, it is exactly the role of politicians to look at what's happening in society currently and determine whether it's a time or an opportunity to review the system and make possible changes. So I would actually have the opposite opinion of what she has. But I think it's important to note that the folks like myself, and I'm not sure when Mr. Mulcair tweeted his I believe, hashtag I believe survivors, I did so in the morning. And I did so purposely in the morning without having the judgment, without knowing which way the case was going to go, because it's a statement that says we need to support women coming forward. We know that these sexual assaults are taking place. We know that most women do not come forward. We knew that this case was about women who did come forward. And so what I wanted to say that day is we need to believe survivors of these kinds of assaults and help them to ensure that they get justice through our justice system.
What about Marie Hennon's point that you can't have presumptive innocence, that you can't assume that priests are innocent, you can't assume that police officers are innocent who are charged, you can't assume that all sexual assault survivors have been sexually assaulted?
Well, I mean, I think what we need to do is make sure that we have a system that doesn't shut those people down. We need to have.
Do you think we have one now?
I do. I absolutely do. I mean, when only 10% actually bring their concerns forward, when only 10% even attempt to bring charges, that says something. When we know that 1 in 4 women experiences a sexual assault or sexual violence, and so there's a problem there. I believe that there's a problem, and so by saying to women, we believe that what you're saying and what you've experienced is and because you're coming forward with it, we believe that there's some merit there. Does it still need to go through a process of determining guilt and innocence? Absolutely.
So it's not for the court.
Did that process work? I don't know that it did, to be honest with you, because what I fear that it did, and I think this is the conversation we need to be having as Canadians, as Ontarians, is it throws a chill on women from coming forward. I mean, I think really the women that experienced that trial, it was not a pleasant situation for them. And I think that when we look at, does our justice system support women? Does it provide a kind of the space that's safe for women to come forward? I would say this case showed that it does not. And so the question that we need to ask ourselves is, do there need to be changes in our justice system to create that kind of support, to create that kind of space, or are we okay with saying that many, many more women, 1 in 4 women, will continue to be sexually assaulted or violated in a sexual way, and it's okay by us that our justice system does not address it?
Some people will say that, you know, I spoke to a lot of different commentators during the trial itself, and they said, in fact, maybe they think that the complainants in this case were treated too gently, and everything that they put on the table was not tested adequately before they ended up in the courtroom, and that was actually, ironically, the problem here.
Well, again, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not somebody who has the ability to pick apart every single piece of what happened during the process. What I do know, though, is I'm very concerned that a chill has now been placed on women from coming forward, and I'm not sure that that's a good place for us to be.
What would you suggest as a means of giving survivors the space to tell their story?
Well, I mean, I think that we need to spend some time looking at, you know, what are women saying? Why are they in a position where they're hesitant to come forward in the first place? And what can we do to make changes there? Again, I think some of it has to do with this sense that, in this case anyways, that they were encouraged to come forward. They were encouraged to tell their stories. They were encouraged to, you know, to take this, you know, to its furthest degree, if you will, in terms of the justice
legal
system.
Yeah.
And yet they didn't.
Get the outcome that they wanted.
Well, it's not so much. I don't know if it's so much that they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, but they certainly didn't end up in a place where they were kept whole, if you know what I mean. Like they were. I think their testimony was picked apart, perhaps, maybe not enough. I don't know the answer to that. But certainly the perpetrators, or the alleged perpetrators, was not. And so is there justice there? And so there are all kinds of questions, I think, that we need to ask ourselves about how fair is it when the woman who is complaining of an act of violence, or the woman who is charging someone with an act of sexual violence, you know, her history, her clothing, her attire, the way she dealt with a relationship is all under the microscope, and yet the person who was alleged to have committed the crime it is not, you know, put on the same kind of a microscope.
The burden of proof is on the person who's making
the allegation.
and
so that's why I asked the question, and that's why I say perhaps this is the time that we need to step back from our criminal justice system, or from our justice system overall, and determine whether or not it is serving the needs of this type of violence, sexual violence, which is very specific and very different than other kinds of relationships, other kinds of violence, because it's based on very intimate relationships and sexual power, which is a dynamic that is not taken into consideration I don't think.
Do you believe Marie Henein betrayed her sex, as some people have alleged?
Well, I mean, she's a criminal lawyer. She has a job to do. She has to defend her client in the current justice system that we have. So I'm not going to denigrate her on a personal level, or the role that she had to play. That was her job to do. What I do think we have an opportunity to do, though, now is to look at our system and determine whether cases of sexual violence, sexual assault should be handled in the same way as other cases. I as a woman, knowing some of the women victims and some of the statistics around this kind of crime, I think that we need to take a hard look at whether there are some changes that need to be made.
All right, Ontario NDP Leader Andrea Horwath, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.